So we've been exploring some different board gaming mechanics, and I've been sharing and looking at some of the titles in my collection, and this naturally leads into the question, solo board gaming, deliberately selecting titles or deliberately playing a board game from a solo perspective. And this is interesting in terms of the evolution of board games, and I'm going to condense things a little bit. But initially we saw this idea with board games being one versus one, essentially a war game. And then this idea of one versus many, which we see with like Descent First Edition, where you had one person being the overlord, controlling the forces and going against a team. We see board games that are many versus many, strategy games where everyone's kind of for themselves. And then this idea of co-op games. Great example, the Zombicide titles. You play as a team together, you win or lose as a team, and the mechanics of the game play itself. And this seems to be really the trend right now, the idea to be able to sit down with some friends, roll some dice, have some fun, and have that story unfold. So with such a heavy social aspect, why would we want to play solo? And I wanted to push out an idea because originally I was not involved in the board gaming hobby. Wargamer Fritz, primarily being a wargamer, I gradually got into board gaming as a way to kind of fill the time when I wasn't playing war games. Occasionally, we all have annoying things in real life like work, school, and other responsibilities that get in the way. And if we can't regularly make it to the club, the shop, or playing with our friends, you still want to unwind. You still want to get a little bit of that hobby in. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. Well, Fritz, if you're not playing war games, then paint your miniatures. Yes, even doing that. But sometimes you just want to kind of unwind. So that led me jumping into board games, hooking up with a couple of clubs, building up a group of friends that we would play social. And it's been a fantastic journey being able to play and explore titles from that perspective. Because while I enjoy the tactics, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games, board games, war games, while I enjoy the tactics, I enjoy the narrative, I enjoy the hobby, for me, the aspect is social. I want to sit down with some friends, step out of space and time, roll some dice, blow some stuff up, have an adventure, create some memories, and make that happen. So playing solo seems to divorce from all of that. But why would we play solo? Why do I play solo? I'm going to share that. Then I'm going to push it over to you guys in the comments, because depending on your entry point to board games, it might seem like a very kind of weird or interesting way to play. And again, these are board games that have a mechanic that can solo, as in like Zombicide Invader or the Zombicide series, or games that you can play with an automated overlord or an automated co-op as opposed to playing all the sides. The main reason is the board game setup for me. Components are important, narrative is important, but I'm looking to set something up where I can unwind. I can physically connect with the components. This is why dice are important and miniatures are important and artwork is important. I want to kind of pull in that narrative, pull in that role-playing experience, and for a little while, just unplug from the digital world, unplug from my responsibilities, unplug from that aspect of life, and immerse myself in a story. And maybe that story will be strategy. Maybe that story will be heroic odds. Maybe it'll just be an RPG narrative unfolding. The interaction of cards, components, miniatures, and dice and rolling dice, that physical connection is very, very interesting to me and very, very powerful. Now, that's not to say I don't play video games or play online games or even online type board games or digital board games, but there is a very, very physical connection of pulling you into the story. The second aspect that I really enjoy is I can take my time playing them. Not so much when you play with a group. Yes, there's analysis paralysis, and yes, you want to have a few moments to think about strategy, but I can really immerse myself in a board game and look out and say to myself, okay, if I go here, potentially what could happen? Or area is kind of really spawning a lot of monsters. I don't know. Do I ignore it? Do I try to delay it? Do I fight it? you get to play at your own pace. Sometimes you can make a lot of moves, sometimes you can make less moves, and it's interesting to be able to think the game through, immerse yourself into it, call it as you need it, compared to playing with a group or playing where there's a timer or playing where, not necessarily a bad thing, but the store closes at 10 a.m., it's 9 o'clock, we got to make it through. You could play it at your own pace. There's also this idea of being able to play, and in theory, if you have the space and it's not going to be disturbed, to be able to play through aspects of the game, to be able to play aspects of the hobby at every moment. An example would be Kingdom Death Monster, fantastic game that I enjoy, very, very immersive, a lot of strategy, plays over a long time. I can set it up on my gaming table and literally play it for like a month and a half, and I've done that. So the return on investment is actually insane, even for some of the more expensive board games, in that I can set it up, and if it's a lazy Sunday afternoon and I've got some time, I'll play for 3 hours. If I'm home from work and it's 11:30 at night and I've got to unwind, then you know what? I can play for 30 minutes. I can play one move. You can play it in these pieces and in these chunks, which for some titles that are very, very expansive, Blackstone Fortress, Kingdom Death Monster, Dark Souls, Gloomhaven. I mean, these are epic games that take a while to play. You're not on any timer. You could set it up. You could play it. You can go at your own pace. And the last perspective, we all have titles that we enjoy for whatever reason. You have your gaming personality, your player personality, maybe some components speak to you. When I play physical board games with my friends, we try to agree on a title ahead of time. What do we feel like? And with a group, I'm open to play anything. Yes, I'm going to push for my titles. Yes, I'm going to bring my games. But, if you have a title that you're excited about, something you want to play, that's okay. Let's put it down. And then there are times where if we're going to play games, if we've got 4 or 5 or 6 hours, kind of like make it a Saturday to play, everyone will bring a couple of their favorite titles and we'll kind of decide what we want to play. And again, I'm very, very open. There might be some titles that might not necessarily be my first choice, but I didn't have to purchase them. I didn't have to expend resources, and my friends are enthusiastic. So you know what? Let's play and let's explore it. Solo board gaming means you literally own the titles. You have those titles. You can play them anytime you want, as much as you want, and you can really focus on literally specifically the types of titles that you enjoy and the types of titles that you want to play. So you always get to play your favorite games. Now the question, then we're going to turn it over for some feedback and some comments. You see a lot of board games that are co-op now because they want to pull in those social aspects. You see a lot of board games that, list from players 1 to 6, or they have a solo mode. I think more and more is opening up board gaming solo. And while I can understand it might seem a little weird if you're approaching it from the purely social aspect, I would say if you're into board gaming, consider it. Try it out. See it. And the duality is, if you're very busy and life is kind of throwing a lot at you, you can still get that game in, even if it's only like 30 minutes. Set it up, play it. If you have more time, you can do it. And on the opposite side, at any time, you then can open up. That's the great thing about the hobby. You can sort of open things up and play with friends or play with a group. It has that fluidity. So in your own collection, wherever you are in the hobby right now, maybe you just started or you've been playing for a while, do you play mostly solo? Do you play mostly with a group? Is it kind of a mix? And the titles in your collection, are they mostly multiplayer, or are there a number of titles that indeed are solo based?